So next up, I'm pleased to introduce Nick Hopkinson, who is the chair of the London branch of the European Movement, has been campaigning to stay in the EU, and he's taken a good look at our trade prospects. And he's in agreement with the other speakers. They are much stronger where we are. Please clap for Nick Hopkinson.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thanks to Colin, Anna, Britain in Europe, Students for Europe. The Conservatives have been, as we know, split on Europe for decades, and now they have extended their split to the country through the referendum. I would rather have a United Kingdom than a governing party leading us into a Brexit shambles.
Hold it near your mouth.
Brexiters argue that the British people have decided, yet there's no consensus on Brexit and what it means. The British people have made a decision in the 1975 referendum, and by then by a far larger majority, to remain. With the narrow majority last June, there is no settled will of the British people as to how we wish to associate with our European neighbours and our largest export market. Given the losers of the 1975 referendum did not stop trying to reverse that decision, why should Remainers be asked to stand down now? We are patriots too. Democracy is much more than one or two votes. We have institutional checks and balances, such as Parliament, an expert civil service, an independent judiciary, an independent media. Our curse is that our media is sadly dominated by non-dom billionaire owners. There is no finality in any democracy. When a political party loses an election, the opposition does not stop arguing for what we believe in. The unelected Prime Minister over there, speaking outside of Parliament, proposed what she knows to be a half-baked sketch of Brexit, which is bad for Britain. The white paper, as we said, is not a plan either. It's a wish list of desired outcomes. The Prime Minister says she wants a good deal with the EU. Well, Mrs. May, any deal you do or don't conclude will not be good enough. Brexiters perpetuate a misleading, if not self-delusional narrative on the economy and particularly trade. It is true the sky has not fallen in on the economy, yet. However, the past is now no guide to future performance. The past 7 months is a short time frame and shows we are still benefiting from being part of the EU single market. But much investment in the UK is on hold, and financial firms are already relocating some operations out of our country. Brexiters downplay the 15% depreciation in the pound, but let's see how the Just About Managing, or JAMS, and others enjoy the resulting 3% inflation and forecast decline in real living standards as Brexit bites. British citizens currently enjoy the freedom to travel, study in, work in, and export to 27 other EU member states. Why should so many who have benefited from EU membership over the past 40 years deprive future generations of these very same opportunities? Shame. We should be confidently leading in Europe, not leaving and retreating from it. When people listen to the Brexiteers, it sounds as if we're being ripped off. Well, they are, by the Brexiteers and the non-tax-paying tabloid media magnates. They tell us we shall be free, in part because we can conclude free trade deals ourselves. Well, as we've said, Britain has a greater voice in negotiations when we are part of a larger bloc. The UK will not have the upper hand in trade negotiations with the EU. We only have 2% of world GDP compared to the EU's 22% without us. 44% of our trade is with the EU 27, whereas we only account 8% of EU trade. Any trade deal with the EU will afford less market access than what we enjoy now as part of the EU single market. It is no wonder why British businesses wanted the government to retain our single market membership. But they did not listen. No. Trade tariffs on goods are now largely eliminated. Today, trade liberalization efforts center on approximating domestic regulatory rules, equivalent to 30% of deliverable costs. Instead of 28 different nations setting one set of national rules on products and safety standards, EU member states, led by our government in 1992, pressed for a single framework. That is now going. The single market has made it easier and cheaper for our firms to export than more than half a billion affluent consumers. The same supposedly onerous EU regulations have not held back Germany's successful export market or even our own. Outside the single market, we shall be less able to shape those rules which many of our exporters will still have to abide by. When we voted to leave, we voted to lose control. It is astonishing that any country would want to turn its back on its major export market. If the UK were a business and not a country run by ideological EU phobes, we wouldn't be turning our backs on half our customers. Outside the single market, supply chains will be disrupted. Leaving also creates considerable uncertainty. As Boris Johnson, argued in the Daily Telegraph last year, leaving would mean embroiling the government for several years in a fiddly process of negotiating new arrangements, thus diverting energy from the real problems of this country. Has this government done anything for the NHS? No. Has the government done anything for affordable housing? No. Are we against Brexit?
Yes!
Good. Okay. I will conclude. It appears the government is going to trash our economy on the altar of reducing immigration. Leaving the EU will not stop half of the migrants who come from outside the EU. Brexit, Britain's economy, and aging population will still need immigration. EU professionals and others are particularly needed to work in services, the NHS, construction, and in our countryside. We need foreign students who create employment up and down this country. Universities is one of our great export industries. Brexiteers admit leaving the EU will not reduce overall immigration substantially. So what's the point of making the United Kingdom poorer for the sake of 10% fewer immigrants a year? Rubbish, isn't it? Absolute pure rubbish. Brexiters say they want their country back, and they will take it back. We Remainers want to take our country forward.